Okay, welcome everyone. This is the 30th of May, 2023, and this is our EMEA Americas orchestration demo. So we have a demo item. Great news. Alessio, all credit to you. Take it away.
Thank you. So this is not a real demo. It's kind of, right? So it's something that I realized that happened in the past 2 weeks as part of one of the key art that we are working on, and kind of materialized very well today in the Rails 7 experimental deployment. So I think it's a good time to just share I call this the blazing fast peak into auto deploy temporary edition, because the work is not yet complete, but there is enough stuff to build confidence and have a blazing fast peak into auto deploy. So I will basically share. Let me share my screen and try to navigate through this. Okay, so it's too big. 1 second. Let me. Okay, smaller now. Well, so basically, there's release docs. It's somewhere here. So basically, we have a goal to remove this playbook here, which is this run book, which is I don't know. There is this one, which is I can't find it.
It's that one, right?
Yeah,
How
this
to
one.
speed.
This one. So basically, we were used to run this thing, right? So when you had the peak intro deploy, the severity, then you set you run the peak schedule, then you have to set the auto deploy tag latest feature flag, then you have to timely disable it, and then you have to pay attention about what is happening with the pipeline. Because you used to tag something that had a running pipeline, and then you never know, because you may start deploying something that ends up being a broken package because you haven't run the pipeline into the auto deploy branch. And so this has all this complexity about I need to enable, disable, what happens in between, and all this thing, right? So what we have right now as the intermediate solution is that, so we were doing the Rails 7 deploy experiment, which means we are giving the developers the ability to run unmerged code for a piece of time. Today we hit even staging, and we gave them a production canary. So basically we are building a custom package for them out of auto deploy, with changes that, because we want to de-risk this big merge request, and we want to give them ability to see the logs, to see the metrics of their changes for 1 hour, 2 hours, 30 minutes, depending on how this fit into the auto deploy thing. And so today was quite easy, because basically what I did is I went to the preparation merge request that we don't want to merge. We know this is not supposed to be merged. And from the GitLab UI, I was able to pick the change itself, the commit, into the auto deploy branch. And basically, that's the equivalent of picking to auto deploy. This is specific to the Rails 7 experiment because it's not merged. So we are doing this to build the experimental package. But then I was able to set the auto deploy tag latest feature flag for a tiny moment and run the manual. Let me do this, otherwise it's too much. So tools with an A, that's the one. So basically, after setting the feature flag, I can run this. This is a manual pipeline, and this will tag that package without checking the pipeline status, because we enabled the flag. But the good news now is that you can quickly go back to the feature flag and disable it immediately, because now we have validation, we have pipeline validation in the rollout phase. So you can safely let it go, because by the time we will roll out to staging canary, the pipeline on the auto-deploy branch should be completed because the package is building. So it takes roughly 1 hour, which is more or less the same time it takes to run the test. And so you have this safe stop. If by the time the package is ready to roll out and the pipeline isn't complete or it failed, it will fail the deployment. And so you have the ability to retrigger something if it failed and then retrigger the check, or there is a variable to override the check and continue with the deployment. But this already basically gave us the ability to, I'm selecting something that I want to expedite and picking it, because now we have to pick manually, is specific to the Rails 7 experiment. And then create the package immediately and run in parallel testing and packaging with the assurance that the package, it will be validated at the end. And so basically the initial goal for this task was to actually remove the feature flag itself, to always operate in this way. So if we pick something and is running, we always tag it because we have the check, we have the delayed check. We haven't reached that point yet with the work that we're doing, but it's already showing the benefits because we still have to manually enable, tag, and disable. But this is what we want to do in long term. And so, yeah, I thought it was nice to share. And that's it.
When it comes to that manual timer or that manual job that you highlighted there, is that necessary if we're willing to wait the 10 minutes for the auto deploy timer job to complete? Will that still do the same thing, assuming the feature flag is enabled?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because the feature flag, and I'm already there changing things, and I want to disable it, and I want to make sure that I don't forget this enabled, then I run the manual job. So I do enable, run the job, wait for the job to complete so that it is actually tag the package and disable. So I'm in active mode, and then I go in waiting mode. When this will be done and complete, we don't care, right? We just say we add the pick into auto deploy, and every 10 minutes this will run and pick, tag, and do the delayed check. So there will be no need to run the manual job.
Cool.
So I do have a question. In this scenario, when you cherry pick the merge request into the auto deploy branch and enable the flag so the package could be prepared and then immediately disable the flag, what would have happened if the auto deploy branch was for some reason broken and therefore the last pipeline on the auto deploy branch with the commit was also read? The next auto deploy package will have chosen like that commit or the commit prior to that.
So if it's read, so yeah, so we have to distinguish between what will happen when we complete this work and what happens today with the flag, with the feature flag.
Yeah, today with the flag, we have the problem that we are going to roll back accidentally, right? But with this...
We're no longer doing this because we validate the linear history of packages at deploy time. This is something that Ruben implemented. So basically, when we continue to rolling out, we are doing a call to release tools to validate if this package is a rollback or not. So if it's older than what is running. So we don't get there.
Feature.
The thing is that the problem would be with tagging, right? So right now, if it's enabled, it tags everything, even if it's red, but it will fail at the validation stage. And this is basically we are losing time because we know ahead of time that this will not pass the validation. But once we remove, once we remove the feature flag at all, it will be different because it will be, is it running? I mean, not running. The point is, did it fail or it can potentially be a success? If it can potentially be a success, so it's running, it's created, it's any state that is not failed or canceled, then I will tag because I'm betting on the fact that this will be green in 1 hour. If it's already red or canceled, it can't be without manual action. It can't be ready in 1 hour. So we will skip that package like we with the tag, that commit as we do today, right? So we start from the top and say, this is not good, this is not good, this is good. And we go there.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm probably missing some context because I haven't read how this work. But by what you are saying, it is going to check the commit or immediately tag the commit that is on top of the pipeline, regardless the status. It is going to build the package, and then after that, it is going to validate if the commit is valid. And if it is valid, then we are going to proceed. Okay, okay. I see.
So when create the branch, the distinction is between creating the branch and tagging. So when creating the branch, we're using the old behavior, which is we need something that is green on master. And then the other thing is when we are working on auto deploy, so we are peeking stuff, we are creating hot fixes, that we are in a rush. We want to have a package ready, if possible, before the next auto deploy timer kicks in and create a new auto deploy branch. In that case, we are willing to delay the check. So it takes the same time to run the pipeline and build the package. So we'd rather waste the package instead of wasting 1 hour, because then in another hour or so, we'll have another auto deploy branch and we are back to square zero.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking if this solution could help us when we have a broken master and we really need to deploy a revert merge request because we have an incident. So in this case,
that's the use case basically, right?
Okay.
So you want to have it.
Yeah, but if we have broken master, that means that we can't create auto deploy branches because master is red. So the next timer is not going to find anything until master is green.
Okay.
But we have the revert, right? So it is going to be the same problem. It doesn't happen.
So
that
the
often,
broken
but it
master, you're right.
happens.
The broken doesn't help with broken master. It helps with QA failures on all those things that basically when we need to get out from an incident with a revert or a commit.
Okay.
And then, so Alessio, was that the current situation as it is today that you just described?
Yeah.
And what's the one you're aiming at with this epic?
We are aiming, so the final step now is to remove the feature flag entirely. So this will always give us the fastest way to get a pick into auto deploy into a package. So you don't have to deal with the feature flag. It would just always tag pick into auto deploys when they are running. So you always get an expedited pick into auto deploy experience in any case. And so we can remove that runbook page, and there are other pages where they're mentioning how to use that flag. So the only reason we are keeping the flag, which is questionable, but it's up. We can discuss it if we want to create an auto deploy branch out of GitLab master, regardless of its state. I would say that I'd rather create the branch manually and set the variable, which is, I mean, it's less risky than starting creating packages out of the top of master, which moves so fast and may change since you hit that button. But I mean, one step at a time.
But if that happens, I suppose we can, and if we have an incident, if we have broken master, and if we have an incident, I suppose that we can cherry pick the merge request into the last auto deploy branch that was green and then start the deployment, right? So
yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
We are unblocked because we don't rely on the master being green because I mean, the problem will be for the next auto deploy branch. How do we make sure that it has the same fix into it? But this is another problem, which is about the minimum SHA that has to be included into a package, which is it's another problem down in the road.
Currently a deployment feature. We can handle that with a runbook, actually, I think. You know, like, I know it's not a great solution, but our rollback runbook, I think, is a great example of one where actually we've done a good job of putting a step-by-step process. Maybe we should just do the same.
So it sounds like, because one of the problems that I recall is that when we pick into the auto deploy branch, it doesn't guarantee that it's picked into every branch after. And so you're saying that this won't address that initially.
No, exactly. What this will do is it gives you, so before you had the problem of competing timers, so you don't really know what gets into what. This will give you a package. We give you a package with the fix you want. It may give you another package 10 minutes after that roll it back if the new auto deploy preparation timer is run, right? So, but basically, every run we do we need an auto deploy, a new auto deploy branch? Yes, no, and we create it, and then on the same job we pick on top of that, and then we tag, right? So we are reducing the risk of not having a package with the fix, because in any case, if we pick something, we tag. And so this will produce a package. Now the question is, will the next one still have it? That's the same problem that we already have today. But today we also have the situation where we never produce the package with the fix. So we're working on mean time to resolution by ensuring that we produce a package that addresses the problem, but still we need to be aware of the order of operation. And if a new auto deploy branch will be generated, that may not include that thing. Basically, I just want to point out that you can have an auto deploy ready to roll out, a pick into auto deploy ready to roll out in 1 hour plus 10 minutes, which is a huge change from the past. It's a huge improvement. It's a huge change because it's guaranteed. You had the label. If it applies, if the pick is applicable, it generates it immediately, and in 1 hour is ready to roll out. Before, it was at least 2 hours plus hoping that none of the timers were overlapping and just never producing the package that you want.
Great. Any other questions, comments on that? No? Okay. Steve, over to you.
Thanks. So I've been working on this epic for the security release automation, and this kind of focuses on the pipeline that Myra proposed and created a POC of. And so I've started creating some issues, kind of breaking down that POC, and also including a few other of the related issues that we've kind of looked at that would fit into that pipeline. And I've broken things up initially by pipeline stage, which aligns roughly with the different days of tasks in the security release task issue. And so my plan is to kind of get enough issues organized so that we can kind of get started on the work this week, and then I'm out of office next week. So have it set up so that the work can keep going while I'm out. And I thought it'd be helpful to go over the epic and discuss where we might want to start. And my initial thoughts on where we might want to start are, after sort of the initial setup of the pipeline and setting up those first tasks or first steps tasks from the security release, there's two things that kind of came to mind for me. One is working on the day before release tasks, which includes checking the AMER status, unlinking AMRs that aren't ready and pinging the authors, and then merging the backports. So that's the big thing, is that that's the day that we merge the backports. And then the other place that I kind of thought of that we could get started is the early merge stage, which we generally run the same chatOps command multiple times per day, but there's some aspects there where we could improve automation. When that table is populated in the security release issue, pinging authors so that they're aware that there's a problem that is not allowing them to move forward, and then also kind of giving them a warning a few days before their MR or their issue is about to be unlinked, so that they know about it ahead of time. But mostly I'm looking for like a sense of, if we built, one or two of these things to start in a way that we could kind of mix it in with our current process over the next month or two as we, continue to build out the rest of the pipeline, what makes sense as a good starting point.
So which task is causing us the most pain or effort?
And I think the two that I sort of mentioned were the ones
You are
that came to
muted,
mind.
Alessio.
Go on, keep going, Steve.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so I'm curious to hear if other people agree or have other thoughts.
I guess I suppose, like, more specifically, like if we were to cut this right down to first iteration, like, is there one of those things that you've mentioned there, Steve, that you think like this is the one that above all others is causing us more pain?
So I'm running this this week. So I'll kind of I haven't concluded. So maybe later in the step after are terrible.
Next week you can tell us if it's right.
Yeah, so I can tell where I am right now, what I found annoying, but maybe not painful, is, oh, no, let me rephrase, because actually I have good thing. So I think that there is room for improvement in the preparation, a lot of room for improvement. For instance, there are checklists like send this message to this channel. And then there is another one, which is inform this channel. Say the first one is quality, the second one is engineering productivity, same department. And the second one has no blurb. It's just inform that the process started. And so then you ask, should I just send the same message? Should I link that one? And it basically, there are some of those are very actionable. Other are, you should try to figure out what was in the mind of who wrote the checklist, because it's not clear what you have to do. You have to inform about something, people about something, and that's it. Checking branch status, all those things are annoying, but it's a one-off effort. Then there is the day-to-day, which is easy to forget. So if you don't, you have to be on top of it, because if you don't keep merging, you are delaying the time it takes to get the fixes into the next auto deploy, and you may have something to miss the deadline. So it's easy but annoying. And then I find really annoying chasing down author. So having to say, we're going to cut the release by this date, it has to be ready by this date. What do you think is the status of your security fixes and things like that? So if pinging authors, writing the message about, say, we started the process, it will likely complete in 2 days, 3 days, or even linking back to the issue, or say the timeline is defined here. So go there, check out when we are going to consider things ready. Because the point is that there is always a security release tracking issue open at time. And so it's quite possible, and always happen, that you get new issues assigned during the preparation. And you may end up chasing this never-ending situation where every time you run the early preparation merge, you are merging something new, which delays everything, because now you have to promote it. And by the time you promote it, you may run it again and putting something else into it. And so that's kind of one of the problems. Just clearly marking, we're not accepting new stuff. We are trying to finish and wrap up what we have. So say mostly communication is one of the big things that we should improve, we can improve, and all the prep work.
Is it possible to lock an issue, and when we lock an issue, people can still link related issues if the issue is locked?
I think that's how it works.
We have an auto unlinking. right? So there is some automation that at a certain point in time, it starts auto unlinking stuff.
Yeah, I think it is 24 hours before the
Yeah.
due date, but I wonder if it will be more efficient to have some sort of command that is run in the pipeline at some point that says, hey, okay, this issue is locked. No one can touch it. Like it's locked forever and ever.
Where is this auto unlinking feature? Isn't it release tools?
Yeah, it is something that Ruben implemented a while ago. I haven't seen it working. I'm not sure if it is under a feature flag, but it is there.
Okay.
So maybe, Steve, that maybe sounds like a good one for you to perhaps have a little dig through and have a think about what you want to pull together there. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say that for me, the most excruciating tasks are the initial ones, the ones that says, okay, you need to send a message here, post a message there, notify GIF about this, because as Alessio said, the message is the same. We just need to copy and paste it across multiple channels and then disable the omnibus thingy, check the merge request status. Even though that is easy, it kind of piles up with all the tasks that you need to do. And also the final tasks for me, they are also sort of easy to do, except when they fail. For example, the sync remote, that one is very painful. And also creating the versions is something that can be easily automated.
We have API
yeah.
for creating the versions. It's something that came up with a team that when they were upgrading the page, we asked for API. So they implemented those. We never
Starback
integrated.
opened an issue a few months ago. So there is, yeah, we just haven't implemented. So a couple of things, I guess, about this. Like if you do want to go down the route of putting a pipeline on things versus having chat ops commands, then it sounds like a lot of these communication style tasks could be a really good first jobs to put on that, because if they fail, it's easy to see and easy to recover from, versus something like the backport merge or something that may be a bit more significant. But how do we want to measure what is the most time consuming part? Because the sort of overall goal for this whole epic is to get down the active hours involved with a security release. Are there any pieces that stand out as like particularly time consuming?
Well, I guess one of the questions I would have, like, Alessio, you kind of walked through how it's annoying chasing down the authors and asking them and all this kind of stuff. So if there was an automated ping that said, just pinged all of the authors and said, hey, this process has started. If your MRs have not been merged, like look at this table or look at this to see what's wrong and try to fix it. And then, having that sort of locking mechanism to prevent people from adding new things. Would you stop looking at the MRs and just trust that tooling is giving all the communication needed, or would you still feel the need to go to visit the issues and check statuses at all?
I would probably stop looking at the merge requests and issues and just look at the tracking issue. If this is, it depends on where we are collecting those things, right? So if we are going to ping people in the merge request itself, then I still have to go there and see if they answer or they write something about that. But if this goes into the tracking issue, then as a central point, right? I go there, I see the status of everything. And if I have to dig through something, I can dig through something, but only the things that didn't receive answer, they still have some weird status, but it probably works better, right? Because I don't have to open all the merge requests, only those that have no communications or things like that. Because I think it's two problems here. One is that the table is already providing a lot value, because I used to check all the merge requests one by one. Now I'm only checking the one that have some status that is not okay. Huge improvement. The other thing is the communication part, right? So authors are not notified that the process started. So then you have to find them later in the process when you are already in a hurry. So if we could do a check when say we started the process is started, we are maybe not pinging those who are okay on the first run. So maybe they're okay, you merge them and that's it. No noise for the developers. But everyone else that has not ready, create a ping, immediately inform them that we are actively working. This should be their top priority, or they should unlink. If they think they can't do it, unlink.
I also wonder if maybe as a sort of additional, like a future iteration separate from this, we should start thinking about how do we make this self-serve? So at the moment, we sort of own the whole thing and we go and tell individual people like, hey, we need you to do this thing. But I get the impression, I can't remember if I was told this directly or whether it was just sort of implied. I think I was told directly that it's very difficult for people who, like, if, say, for example, the author is then not around, the stage group there's no continuity. It's kind of on an individual person. So sometimes things fall through the gaps. I wonder if it might also be worth thinking about, like, how would we get that table so that the expectation is more of here is the information of the release in preparation, and stage groups are being expected to actually track that themselves. It might require us to think about a few extra steps around our comms and timeline, but I wonder if that might be a kind of a useful goal to get to. Because what I'm thinking of is in the future, if we do get to having multiple security releases in the month, then from our point of view, it doesn't really matter if something misses. It will just go into the next one. We should try and push that responsibility onto the stage groups, exactly as like the monthly release. So I wonder if there's some way, like almost wonder if there's some point where we actually go, like, put out a kind of either broadcast or it goes in the releases channel or somewhere like that, where we say security release prep is in progress, and here is the overall table. We don't have to move it anywhere for now. We could just put a link to it, and then we could start to get engineering managers to actually look at that with their teams.
You think that having defined dates like the ones we are planning about having the monthly release, I think the third week of every month, that is going to also kind of force us to have perhaps some scheduled security release that we are going to have each week, each Thursday, I don't know, each Wednesday. And that's going to allow us to have some more defined schedule for the phases of a security release in a way that stage teams are going to be trained about, okay, when to expect to have things ready.
Maybe. I think there are some pros and cons to having a sort of rigid date. Like disadvantages, we create more deadlines, so it puts more pressure on. We remove a lot of our flexibility. So I don't know that we will necessarily want to or be able to kind of say, lock this fully down. I think probably for now, and if we do, that's certainly going to be Q3 or beyond, so not soon. So I think we should probably for now assume that the flexibility will remain. It looks like from recent releases that there's benefits to us to having that kind of flexible preparation period based off need. So we should probably think with that in mind, and then see if we need to adjust from there.
There's something came to my mind when we were discussing this idea, right? People going somewhere to see the status of things, right? So I wonder if we want to stop using the next security release as a parking slot, which is the source of all this problem, and actually having a dedicated label, something like next security release. So when you create a security issue for something, the tracking issue for the specific vulnerability, don't remember the specific name of that thing, right? So the thing that we link into the overall issue. So instead of linking, you just have a label, next security release, and then an automation produce weekly reports. So everything that has that label applied will be in that report with the status, like if you were to merge it, right? So it's not assigned, ready to be merged, invalid, or the same logic, right? But it just gave us that thing. And when something is ready, it will link it to the tracking issue so that we deal only with,
do the linking.
yeah, so that we only deal with ready things. And then it's, say, it's up to AppSec. If something is high priority, high severity, they can track this through the weekly thing and make sure that it gets done in time. Again, we split the problem, right? So gathering the status of development, which is more into AppSec and development, and making sure that everything that is ready gets into a release timely, which is more what we do as delivery.
What do you think, Steve?
I think that's thinking about that idea. Like, I think that's a really interesting idea, to automate the linking, so that it only links when something is ready, rather than putting it on the author to tell us when it's ready and possibly being wrong about it. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea. I'm trying to think of like any implications or problems like that I could see down the road.
Yeah, it could be tricky, or I'm not sure about critical security releases, for example, that require to be linked to the tracking issue, but perhaps not. And also, we will need to consider the reduced backport situation, in which we don't require for things to have 4 merge requests, but only 2. Yeah, you just need to consider those edge cases.
We can tell people to link manually, right? If it's a reduced backport and they think is ready, I think that the main goal here is to split grooming the status of all the security vulnerabilities out there and making a release faster and ready, right? That's the thing, because then you have a weekly report that can be assigned to AppSec. Just as something like they say, this is the weekly report of the status of everything in flight. And then it's more up to, say, to them, right? So to validate that, we can improve on top of that, validating SLA, the FedRAMP, SLA, all those type of things, right? They can fit that process without cluttering the preparation. And then,
okay,
yeah, I mean, it's a matter of linking. So if something requires manual action, we will do, I mean, as we do today, we will do manual actions, but it can give clear indication of what to be done or what has to be done on a specific week.
So then thinking about the entirety of the security release process. So if we were to implement that type of a system, then that would reduce and eliminate a lot of the early merge phase sort of effort and time, hopefully, which if we look at the current release or security release task issue, there's not really, none of that's actually really listed anywhere, right? That's just like the early merge phase, run the merge the default branch. So in terms of the idea of creating a pipeline, that all could fit in as part of the automation that happens whenever an early merge command is run. Or I guess it wouldn't even necessarily be necessary anymore because it would be automated, that things would be linked. So I'm thinking in terms of like what's realistic for like this next quarter, like that seems like something we might want to build out after we've automated some of these other tasks, because that potentially would be like like it seems like a bigger project to me, but it's also, you know, first time thinking about what's involved.
I suggest that what might be useful to do is, so this week we've got Myra ready to go, and you're around as well, Steve. what about if I think one of the concerns I have with setting up a pipeline and starting to run these tasks is there's probably a little bit of overhead of actually getting a pipeline set up and in place, and we've got some documentation and we probably want to try it out. So it feels like we should do that on a small task and remove some of the pain. So the comms stuff we talked about at the beginning seems absolutely perfect to me. Like if we just scoped it, so it'll set up a pipeline that we trigger in whatever way makes sense, and it does the Slack notifications and it does the Jihu thing, and then we can just manually keep an eye on it for the next release, right? And if it doesn't work, here's the fallback: is you just post this thing. Sorry, you just post this thing in the right place, or you run the job, or it's easy enough to debug, right? But at least we get to start to validate that idea of having of jobs. I would suggest that we focus and have like the comms pipeline, and not go the security release pipeline and attempt to do the whole thing, but just validate what this looks like as a small scoped task. Alongside, I think it would be interesting to try and figure out what would be the steps needed to flip this linking process around. Even if it's not that solution we've just discussed, what would it actually take for us to flip away so that it's not the release managers chasing down lots of people and saying, you need to do this step and you're going to miss this. But like Alessio said, we flip it around so that we just deal with stuff that's ready, and we present the information that allows someone else, so AppSec or stage groups, to determine if they're ready. And then I think that one feels like similar to perhaps the patch release, where we might suddenly unlock quite a big step change. I guess my concern with automating lots of little steps in a pipeline is it gives us some value, but it probably doesn't give us like 10 hours of value. I think we're going to need to do one or two of the bigger things this quarter to really get that time.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And if we do this weekly report or whatever it is, we can even consider pinging by PM, because we can accumulate by stage group. And so instead of pinging all the authors, kind of a PM checking in weekly and say, okay, we are on track. We are not, they can figure out who's around to move things forward.
Exactly. I think similar to what Rachel does with the error budgets report. At the beginning of the month, she just literally drops through on a few Slack channels and goes, hey, here is this month's error budget report. Take a look. Like, we have a few of those sorts of channels or meetings that we could literally drop this in and say, here is the state of the next security release, or here is the state of the security fixes being prepped. Go forth. We will release whatever is ready. And that feels like a really nice sort of approach that will scale with us as we alter release cadences and things like that. We won't actually have to change our process. We can just start dealing with things that are ready.
I want to point out something which is an implementation detail, but that I found really useful in the past week with problem with pipeline, because we're talking about moving things to pipeline. So if you remember, I think a couple of months ago, we have implemented the retry trigger pipeline. So you can retry job on downstream pipeline, or you can retrigger the trigger as a whole. That is a huge improvement. I initially thought this is a terrible idea because it takes more time. But then when the problem is that the downstream pipeline has a broken pipeline, that's a lifesaver, because now you're no longer wasting the whole package, because you can retrigger and it will work. So if we are going to do something like this for the COM pipeline, or whatever we call it, the security release pipeline, I'd suggest that we identify steps, but each one of those is a trigger to the same project. So that in case we run something and there is an application bug into the job itself, we can fix the job, commit, and retrigger. So it will retrigger on master, release tools masters, and get the latest update on it. So we should think about it.
I feel like I have to also comment that I have I don't know how many years we've been posting the message, but it has amused me. Every release since we started, everyone has very patiently and very willingly posted that message to Jihu, and it is specifically written so a bot could do it. I have to say, I haven't prioritized it. I admit I will take full responsibility, but I am amazed that no one has just gone, what am I doing? I'm automating this.
Okay, and yeah, and I think starting with those first tasks will make like an easy transition, because we can just update the jobs command so that instead of generating the issue, it runs those tasks and generates the issue, and then the release manager jumps into the issue from there. And it also gives us that nice opening. If we do want to start automating other jobs into a pipeline, we can pull them in as needed and just change the task issue from there.
Sounds good. Can I also request on the implementation that we do keep it one job per task, so that we can easily bring things in and out? And if we have to retry, it's like very specific. We're just trying this one piece of things.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Cool. Does that give you everything you need, Steve, to take the next steps?
Yep, I think so.
Awesome. Great stuff. Great. Myra, do you need anything more for the adopting the patch release epic?
Nope, I reviewed the status yesterday, and we basically finished all the cleanup tasks, and I think only one is remaining. So yeah, I think we are about to close it probably this week, most likely this week.
Yeah, please do. Please try and get that one wrapped up before we dive into the security stuff, so that we can get that one done. Cool. Awesome. Great stuff. Nice progress. I'm super impressed. Like I was saying to Michele just this morning, like, given our capacity this quarter, super impressed by how much we've already achieved. So well done, everyone. Like, I think it's definitely been down to excellent coordination. You're handing off well with each other, scoping things, and yeah, really prioritizing on this stuff. So great work. Awesome to see the security stuff. Great. Is there any other stuff we should talk about? No? Okay. Oh, I have one final thing, actually. So when I move this, I'm going to have a hunt about and see if I can do some scheduling to improve things. I now have a clash with the original demo time, which is unfortunately not going to shift for the availability stand-up. So I'll catch up with you all and figure out what we do about making sure we have a time so that there's not always clashes on this demo. So I'll keep you posted on Slack if we want to shift things around, but we may want to do some moving. Cool. All right. Great to chat to you all. Thank you for demos and discussions. And yeah, let's all hope we have a good week.